Hello and welcome to Pastor's Library. This is the channel where we talk about everything to do with theology books, maybe books that are on a reading list for a seminary course, for a bachelor's or master's degree in theology, or whether you're just interested in Christian books that you've seen in a shop or in your pastor or vicar's office. Today we're going to talk about a particular favourite commentary for a specific Bible book. And if you like what we have to say, please give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Please remember to subscribe and to click on the bell, because it costs you nothing and it helps the algorithm. It helps us circulate these videos. And so we'd like to encourage you also to leave a comment if you've anything to say, if you've any queries, if you want to know any more, please leave a comment. We do try to answer every comment. So today I want to talk to you about commentaries on the Book of Jonah. Jonah's such a small Old Testament prophet, one of the Book of 12, one of the minor prophets. Jonah has always been a very favourite Old Testament prophet of mine, and I wanted to sort of talk to you a little bit about books that I've accumulated over the years, and perhaps some of those that I would classify as favourites. First of all, this book by Terence Fretheim, who I admit fanboy. I do like Terence Fretheim, but this was written in 1977, which means it's not really ideal for quoting for an essay, but at 142 pages, it is a wonderful, cool swimming pool to dive into on a hot day that will engage you with Terence Fretheim's great mind and his thought process, and hopefully what the Holy Spirit has said through him. This book is 56 years old now, but it's a great book. And if I was to summarise this book, it would be with the phrase, God, who is rich in mercy, because that's a great theme that Fretheim keeps coming back to. He ends this book with a long metaphor about a 73-year-old neighbour who's a horrible person who has a deathbed conversion. And of course, actually, it's a very similar story to the Book of Jonah. I know it's not one I should really be recommending you for essays, but it's a really good book to read about Jonah. Another one which has always been an important book to me is the Word Biblical Commentary. This one's by Douglas Stewart, and it covers from Hosea to Jonah. It gives you 87 pages on the Book of Jonah, 87 detailed pages, 87 technical pages. This is a great resource, but it's 37 years old and a bit over the limit for quoting in essays. But if you see a cheap one, do snap it up, because it's got great worth and absolutely excellent if you are a preacher. This is one that I've accumulated over the years, which, when I say over the years, it's not that old. It's only 4 years old at the time of making this video, but it's by Rosa Ching Shao, and this is the Asia Bible Commentary on Jonah. I think this is absolutely great. It gives you cross-cultural understandings of what Jonah means in other places. Here we see the author telling us that the circumstances of Jonah's experience are instantly sorted out by a word from God. His experience of life is changed really quickly by God's word, but Jonah himself takes longer to change his mind, and is a real example to us of God's patience in action. I love the way heading on one page is when we say no to God, and I really was engaged by it. I probably couldn't put this in the top few, but this is a really worthwhile book, particularly if it doesn't cost you a lot of money. A couple more of left field ones here. Interpretation. This is a commentary series that I've got every one of. I have more disappointments than I have excitements about this series, But this one by James Lindbergh is very good. His section on Jonah, which is only 20 pages, has some great summaries. He sees a couple of things actually that I haven't really picked up from anywhere else. There are things that other commentators with more pages don't make much of a big deal about. But this is a worthwhile commentary to have on your shelf. This one, which is the SCM commentary by Philip Carey, this is a good solid hardback, 2008, 187 pages, so a lot of detail. This is worthwhile. It has some real insight, but he focuses on one or two what I would call obscure points that I really wondered where he was going with. But I do value it. I wouldn't go out of my way to say, oh, you really have to have this on your bookshelf. But if you do have it on your bookshelf, I'm sure you will get something from it. A commentary series, which is often vastly underrated, is the New Interpreter's Bible Commentary. It comes in a set of books, all of which cover more than one book of the Bible. And this one has an introduction to apocalyptic literature, which is a very worthwhile big section. And then a commentary on Daniel, and then commentaries on the 12 prophets, the 12 minor prophets. This was printed in 1996, so it's getting a little bit old, but it's still good for quoting. And the commentary on Jonah is by Phyllis Tribble, who really has an excellent view of the book. She's written 66 pages, and she mentions Moby Dick, and I found this book to be very helpful. The thing to remember when you're getting one of these volumes is you're not just getting a commentary on Jonah. You're getting one on 13 books of the Bible and this really great overview on apocalyptic literature. This is nothing to be ignored. It might cost you 40, even £50 or whatever that is in American money, but it is a really worthwhile investment. Just bear in mind, it's 24 years old at the time of filming. This one is the Zondervan Exegetical Commentary on the Old Testament on the Book of Jonah, and it's by Kevin Youngblood. Now, I've read a few things by Kevin Youngblood, and generally speaking, I enjoy them and I get something from them. This was written in 2013, and it gives you 186 pages, focusing on this 4 chapters in the Bible. I would say this is a direct commentary. It's very direct. You see here a lot of references to the parables of Jesus, the teaching of Jesus, and you see Jonah compared to the older brother in the prodigal son. Above anything else, you will see the message here is that with the Lord, believers can serve as agents of mercy, loving their enemies and interceding on behalf of the oppressed. And I think the overall message of the book is good. Plenty of detail, lots of things to quote from. It's actually very, very good. A commentary series that I always recommend is the New Beacon Bible Commentary series. It's very Wesleyan, very Arminian. To put it another way, you don't get anybody preaching determinism. This was published in 2014, and it's a commentary on Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah and Micah. And so you only get 38 pages on Jonah. It is definitely worthwhile. Highlights, for example, this focuses in on the name of the meaning of Jonah. Jonah means dove. If you go into the story of Jesus, then a dove settles on him at his baptism. And of course, Jesus says of himself, the only sign you'll get from me is the sign of the prophet Jonah. So few things you can link up together there. I would just say this series is always dependable, and even with 38 pages and it not being incredibly detailed, there are good things to quote, excellent ideas for preaching. It would be nice to have a New Beacon Bible Commentary just on the Book of Jonah, but that will if it happens, be in the future. But right now, this is a great commentary to have. There have been a couple of attempts to get out Pentecostal series of commentaries. And this is the one by Dio, the Pentecostal commentary series it's called. And this is the Book of the 12 by John Christopher Thomas as the editor. Now, John Christopher Thomas is one of those great theologians of the present day, a man who's very prolific in his output, does some great things. But this is a book he's edited, and the different prophets are covered by other people. So here you've got Jonah covered by Leroy Martin. And this was published in 2020, and it's got 39 pages devoted to Jonah. And here the author compares Jonah to Job. He offers useful applications of Jonah to our modern day understanding and very helpful conclusions. This is a very pleasing book, and it's quite reasonably priced for the content. I mean, the whole commentary is about 750 pages, and it's a lot of good commentary content as well. There is also this book, which is by the same author, Leroy Martin, called the Book of Jonah. It's called the Centre for Pentecostal Theology Bible Study. And whereas this is not particularly detailed, I mean, it's about 110 pages. It was published in 2016. This is a very interesting book if you're wanting to take small groups through the Book of Jonah. It's sort of like a small group study. It is a commentary, but not in terrific detail. But what it does do is offers a series of questions that you can work through in small groups. I thought it was worth mentioning. I told you I like Fretheim. Fretheim has done a literary and theological commentary in the Smith and Helwitz range. And this is one where you've got 13 pages devoted to Jonah. It's not a lot, is it? But this is very worthwhile. Published in 2013, one of the later things that the late Terence Fretheim wrote. And this is punchy. It's straight to the point. This is a book about justice and mercy, and he summarises Jonah's problem with God as being theological, and he does his best to navigate you through it. I think it's great. It's got a lot to offer. Now, I suppose I'm getting down to the final four. In fourth place, I've got the NIVAC, the New International Version Application Commentary, which was published in 2004. It's 132 pages devoted to Jonah, but the book also covers Nahum, Habakkuk, and Zephaniah. James Bruckner, who is the guy who's written this, he spends a lot of time on the contemporary significance and life application of the Book of Jonah. Again, if you're a preacher, this is probably going to be first choice. It really is quite remarkable. He calls, for example, chapter 4, a primer on human anger. That's an interesting title. That drew my attention. God doesn't insist that Jonah lets go of his anger, but he raises the question to him about whether it is proper, and he offers opportunities to work through the answers. What a great viewpoint. Fabulous commentary, very worthwhile. Now, for my final three, I am pleased to tell you that very recently there is a Hermeneia volume that deals with Jonah. It's 2023 published, it's 162 pages, and it's written by Susan Nidich, and she, I think, has a lot to offer. It's got a very useful bibliography that goes back a little further than you would expect from a modern commentary. For example, 1986, 1976, 1919, 1912, 1874. But it does have a lot of newer, more modern references too, as well as plenty of journal references, which is a great thing to have in any commentary. The author's own translation is offered. Broadly, Nidic sees a lot of metaphorical meaning in Jonah, and she also makes lots of connections to the condition of Israelite worship from the Book of Jonah. This is a book which is a little academic. Its layout is not perhaps the most friendly one, but it's typical for Herminia's range. And I have to say, I'm very pleased to now have this on my bookshelf. Top two then. Top two. I can't really put these in order, so I'm going to go with which one's in my hand first. Oh, this one. James Nogalski. This is a very recent NICOT, a New International Commentary on the Old Testament. So it's a 2023 publication. It's the books of Joel, Obadiah and Jonah, of which 105 pages are devoted to Jonah. It's a brilliant piece of work. It's got a great bibliography. In terms of traditional commentaries, it has to be head and shoulders above most, and probably the one that I find I am the most comfortable working through. Its layout is excellent. It's designed to be read and used and referenced, and I find myself very comfortable with this. Normally this would be number one. I'm just not sure if it is number one or whether or not number one may indeed be this one, Illuminations by Amy Erickson. You might be saying, never heard of it. That's because at this moment of writing, there are only 2 volumes out. The first half of Job and this one. There are loads about to come out. I think they've all been delayed by the pandemic, but you will see many more of these. They are published by Erdmans, so that should make you reasonably confident. This one was published in 2021. It's 466 pages. This is absolutely a tremendous in-depth overview, in-depth commentary, and in-depth analysis of the application of Jonah. Brueggemann reviews this and he says it's breathtaking in its comprehensiveness. That's a good comment, isn't it? That would be lovely to have any book where it said that on the back by Walter Brueggemann, so that's worthwhile. It's elegantly written. Its subject index is very helpful. The full bibliography is at the end of each chapter, so you've got an in-depth bibliography for each chapter, and it makes connections with the arts, with music, with movies, with poetry. This is a really in-depth product that connects the whole world to the Book of Jonah. It also offers a post-Holocaust interpretation. This, I can only say, is a rich commentary which will stimulate your thinking, and it deserves a place on your shelf. However, yes, you knew that was coming, didn't you? There is a however. This is a 50 quid commentary. I'm not quite sure whether or not you can pick it up cheaper because it's not been out very long, and therefore it's not going to be much featured in the second-hand shops. But this is a real quality product. I highly commend it to you. If money is no object, just go and order it. This will stimulate your thinking over the Book of Jonah. So I hope what I've had to offer you today has stimulated your thinking. It may stimulate your purse strings, unfortunately, but that's the problems of being into theology books, isn't it? But I do hope this has helped you. If it has, please give us thumbs up on YouTube. Please subscribe, click on the bell, comment, do all of these things and more, and I'll see you next time on Pastor's Library. Until then, bye!